And the Hangout on air is live. This is very exciting for everyone. So let's see. I want to start off with roll call as usual. We've got Donald and Steve and Brett and Kevin, and Bob Lee is back and hadn't been here a while. And Byron 27. Byron is here for the first time. Longtime listener, first time in the live chat room. Very exciting. Chatty Bob. Man, we got to get rid of that guy. We've got Dan and Stephen Getz and Guest 40. We don't know who Guest 40 is yet, but hopefully they will introduce themselves. And Kiwi Spoon, which is Edie. Is that right? I always get stuck on Kiwi Spoon. Always get stuck. Oh, and Rose sneaks in under the wire at the last second. And Sandy is here. And Steve is in a second time because that's just what he likes to do. So this needs Flash, huh? Everybody's saying they're having to update Flash, Steve. So that's pretty weird. Oh, I've got you on broadcast, actually. I clicked on you, I think.
You've got me on broadcast?
Yeah, I had you clicked on you. So yeah, this is Steve Sheridan taking over the show. So I think it's probably time to throw you out. What do you think, Steve?
Yes, it's time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Hide from broadcast. All right, now that we got Steve out of the way, let me do a little test recording on GarageBand, see how things are going here. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com. Okay, tell me if you can hear it. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com.
Playback's good.
All right, good. I can still hear you. Why is that?
I can mute myself if that's a problem.
Mute yourself.
Wait,
you're not even hidden. Remember we had this trouble last week? I can no longer hide you from broadcast.
Maybe I changed my privileges so you can't.
I think you did. You escalate. This is an escalation of privileges attack by Stephen Sheridan.
I'm muting myself.
All right, goodbye. But you're still on video too, so no nose picking or anything over there. All right, we have gotten Steve off the air. I can still see you, but that's okay. So behave yourself over there. All right, let's see. Somebody else came in. Oh, was Kevin already in? Kevin, somebody else snuck in at the last minute there. Oh, New York. I bet that's New York, Linda. Hi, Linda. How you doing? And somebody else just snuck in. Who was it? Oh, Brett was already here. Oh, Brett's in here twice. How exciting. All right, so we got playback is good. I got a big rant coming. We got a really fun chit chat across the pond. Let's go ahead and get started. So if this is your first time here, again, this is me creating my show, the NosillaCast Mac podcast, hosted over at podfeet.com. I do this live just because it's more fun to try to entertain a bunch of people while doing a recording. And the good news is they let me know if I'm ever making any horrible mistakes. So that's always good. Okay, Brett's testing the app. That's good. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about that. So here we go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Macintosh bias. Today is Sunday, May 31st, 2015, and this is show number 525. Well, we're going to start out with a bit of clarification from James Ford on something Bart said last week. Turns out Bart missed one detail in one of his security light recommendations. Here's what James wrote. Last week, Bart mentioned research that found that many Android phones don't properly wipe themselves when you do a factory restore. The advice Bart gave was to encrypt the phone, but you actually need to do just a little bit more. You need to encrypt it with a strong password. The reason is that attackers can still attack the encryption, so if you encrypt with a weak password, they will almost certainly get in, and if you use a numeric PIN, they will get in a matter of seconds. Well, Bart and I both sent along thanks to James for keeping us on our toes. He is completely right. We try to be as accurate and as complete as possible, and we both hate it if we mislead in any way. So corrections are always welcome. Heck, Ken Prager pointed out a plain old typo in one of my blog posts this week. Somebody else did too, and I can't remember who it was, but both of those people made me really happy when they sent me a typo. I don't know what it is, but I can see typos on a piece of paper across the room. When the paper's upside down, I can see somebody else's typo. But in my own work, I can never see the typos. So I really appreciate it when people point them out. I hate looking like an idiot who can't write a proper sentence. Anyway, thanks to James and Ken and whoever else it was that made me look a little less like an idiot this week. Well, I'm going to do a little bit of an unscripted rant here today. This last week, Steve and I went down and saw his parents. We had given his mother a new Mac Mini a little while ago. And as soon as she had a new computer, his dad said, well, mine's running really slow too. Can I have a new one too? So we went out and got him a new Mac Mini. They buy them. We just get to do all the buying, and they pay for them, I should say. We get to set them up. So it was really fun. We sat down, we got them all set up on the new machine, and Steve spent some time with his dad and actually taught him how to use 1Password. His mom got to learn how to use 1Password a few months ago. So they did really, really well. We spent 2 days. They fed us. They made us cocktails. We had a great time. Everything was working when we left. And shortly after we left, Steve's dad started having trouble with his email. Now, he uses Cox email, and a while ago, I changed Steve's mom over to using Gmail, but just to maybe not disrupt her life as much, I just went ahead and told Cox to forward the mail right over to Gmail. So she thinks she's still on Gmail, still on Cox, but she's really using Gmail servers to do everything. Well, this week, Steve's dad tries to send email, and he starts getting these error messages, and they're saying stuff about how he's not able to get not able to send mail. It was some SMTP errors, and he asked if we could help. And he said that it was weird because it would work, and then it wouldn't work, and then it would work again. So I got him up. Steve set him up with Skype before we left so that I could get into his Mac and see what he was doing. And so we got on to a long conversation. I think it was an hour and 45 minutes I was on Skype with him, where I did everything I could do to try to fix these SMTP servers. I was checking the ports, I was checking the SSL. How was it? For some reason, it kept reverting over and saying it was using Kerberos 5 instead of password as the authentication, in and out, deleting things, adding things, couldn't figure it out. And Ken kept saying, well, let's just call Cox and see what's going on. So I hate calling anybody on the phone, but we did. And we got this guy named Anthony. Well, the first person we talked to wasn't a lot of help, but she very quickly put us up to second tier support to Anthony. My little friend Anthony over at, and I'm definitely using friend in air quotes here, my little friend Anthony was started out snotty. He said, oh, you're using a Mac. That's the problem. That was kind of his opening salvo, and you could just bet how well that worked with me. I really like that. Then when I mentioned that I was going to be kind of doing the handoff with Steve's dad, I explained I had him on Skype, but I could watch what he was doing. So I would be giving instructions to Ken, and the Cox guy could talk to me, and I would translate, and I would be able to watch Ken to make sure he was doing what we were saying. And he says, well, Skype is a very good tool. You really should be using TeamViewer. Like, okay, you know what? Shut up. This is working right now. We're not going to switch tools on him in the middle of this. Come on, let's just keep going. So this guy, he's already got me pretty irritated to start with, but he sort of obliquely mentions that he says an update from Apple wrecked everything, and that's why you're having a problem. We're having a lot of people having problems with this. And I really should have stopped and listened to that because I was saying, geez, Gmail sitting in the same house right next to him on his mom's computer. Gmail's working just fine. Mac.com mail's working just fine. I'm sitting in my house running Gmail, Mac. We're having a problem. He says, well, of course, Mac.com's mail is working. Of course, that's working. No. It's like, well, no, but Gmail's working too. So anyway, we go on and on with this guy. He's snotty. He's obnoxious. And then he has Ken log into webmail, and he changes his password, which was a nightmare. That just messed everything up. But after he changed his password, I said, okay, you got to make sure you show us where we can go in and fix that afterwards, right? Oh yeah, I'll fix it. So we get into his webmail, and he can't send from there. And he says, oh, let me check something. And he comes back and goes, oh, well, you've been blacklisted for doing spam. So, what? We've been blacklisted. Blacklisted by whom? And he says, well, just look right here on this tool. I think it was MX Reports. You can see that you were blacklisted by Spamhaus. And it was Spamhaus and another one. I forget the second one. And I'm sitting there going, what are you talking about for spam? He says, well, you just tried to send too many emails the last little while. Apparently that's what got you blacklisted, and we can't help you at all. I said, what do you mean you can't help me? You guys control my IP address, his IP address, get him unblocked. And they said, no, we can't do anything about that. That's your problem. You got to go deal with that. Like, I don't know how to deal with that. What are you talking about? How do we send too many emails? I mean, we've tried like 20 times. I don't think that gets you blacklisted for being a spammer. So we go around and around and around with this guy, and he's just like, well, you just got to go figure this out. This is your problem. You caused it to spam. It's probably because you left it in his outbox and it kept trying to send a lot of times. That's probably the problem. I said, look, give me a supervisor. So he goes, fine. So he puts me on hold. It's one of these things where they're trying to wait you out, but don't try to wait Allison out. I've got time, right? I was hungry, so I did go down, and Steve and I started to have lunch, and finally I get through the supervisor, and I'm real nice to the next level, right? Because you got to be real nice. So I tell her what's going on, and I said, he started out snotty, and she said, well, I'm going to go back and listen to this stuff, but to be honest, it is a problem. We've been having a problem with Max. There's been a problem going on, and we don't, I don't know if it's resolved yet, but we can't help you with the fact that you're blacklisted. You have to go figure that out. So I finally hang up from her. It is like an hour and 45 minutes by the time I hang up. And I basically stomp around angry for a while. And I got Bart on chat, and I asked him, what could possibly be going on here? What am I supposed to do about this? And he checks it, and he starts listening to what I'm saying, and he looks at the IP address that the guy had me to type in, and he has me read what the blacklisting says. And he says, you know what that sounds like to me? It sounds like Cox people aren't allowed to run mail servers, is what that's saying. It's not that he's blacklisted, it's that Cox people are not allowed to be mail servers. So he takes Ken's IP address and he adds a digit to it. That one's blacklisted too. How about the one above that? Blacklisted. All it meant was that he's not allowed to be a mail server. We're not blacklisted from this at all. So I got Ken back on the phone, got Ken back on Skype, which is always an adventure. And Steve's dad was fabulous. He was so patient. I'm losing my mind here with these people. But we get Jessica on the phone. And again, I decide this is time to be real nice because Jessica hasn't done anything wrong. First tier support. She walks us through how to add the server, and it doesn't work. And she says, let me check and see whether that problem that we have with Max is still happening right now. And she says people on Apple Mail but the thing she read said something about Microsoft changes caused a problem with Outlook. And I said, well, we're not using Outlook. We're on Mac Mail. And she says, no, it says it's on the Mac too, on Mac Mail also. And she says, yeah, it's just not working. And I said, I tell you what, how about you show me where in the settings I can change him to forwarding his mail to Gmail? And she goes, oh, I can help you with that. And she takes me up. I create a Gmail account for him on the fly. We connect him up to that. I forward all his mail over to Gmail. I show him how to attach into Gmail on his Mac Mail. And we're done with Cox now. That is how much fun I had with Cox today. I feel better getting that out. What did I miss? Yeah, the condescending thing is the hard part. Oh, Tyson's in. Hi, Tyson. How you doing? All right, what did I miss? That's a good beer. Thank you, Steve. Byron likes my rant. Man, does this guy still have a job? Oh, Brett's going to teach his mom about 1Password in August. Good. We're doing pretty good. Sorry. Bumped the thing. Just looking back. Wow, you guys chatting away. How long did I talk? We got a lively chat room tonight. Hey, looks like somebody else. Steve is pointing out that Kim was late. Kim, did you come in tardy to class? Actually, it looks like we got somebody else new. Crawshaw. Hi, Crawshaw. Steve, you keeping track there? Yeah. Oh, Steve says my pin is in distress. Well, it was a distressful day. Okay, the pod feet can be straight up now. When the pod feet are upside down, that means we're in distress. Okay. I feel better. Okay, I needed to get that out of my system. Loving my rant. Everybody complains that I'm too scripted. That's what I sound like unscripted but I got to admit it, really in the mood. All right, here we go. This is something you guys are going to like. Well, a week from Monday on June 8th at 10 a.m. Pacific time is WWDC. And for the first time, I'm remembering to suggest it ahead of time. Let's all go into the live chat room during WWDC and chat together while we're watching all the live feeds and watching the video fail and everything. I think that'd be really fun. If you haven't ever been in the chat room, the easiest way to do it is to go to podfeet.com/live. And there's a way you can sign in right there and you can live chat using a web browser. If you're a sophisticated user who's done IRC before, the server name is irc.boardchat.net and the room is #NosillaCast, or is that #NosillaCast? So anyway, 10 a.m. on June 8th, let's get together and have some fun. Well, if you're anything like me, you're constantly surveying rooms and hotels at conferences and at friends' houses for places to plug in your electronics. Smartphones, tablets, computers, and now even watches are all seeking a charge. Heck, even my books need to be charged now that I use a Kindle. That's kind of nuts. Well, one of the great joys of Apple's recent laptop lines over the last few years is their ever longer battery life. When Apple says all-day battery, they actually really mean that. The new 12-inch MacBook is no exception. I've really enjoyed playing with it pretty much all day long and then just charging it at night. Many people have scoffed at this adorable little computer because of its single port, because they worry about charging and using external devices. But if you never have to plug it in during the day into power, why do you need to worry about that? It doesn't seem like that big of a deal to me. The new MacBook uses the new USB-C port, which is an industry standard. Believe it or not, Apple did not use a proprietary connector. I know, pretty weird. But you might be wondering why that would matter to you. On all Macs before the new 12-inch MacBook, and even the newer MacBook Pros that have just come out, Apple has always used the proprietary MagSafe connector, or in the last, 5 years or so. They have this proprietary MagSafe connector. More importantly, though, it's okay to do proprietary, but they didn't license it out to anyone. Years ago, companies came out with battery packs to charge, to connect to that connector, but Apple shut them down. But all of that has changed with Apple's adoption of the USB-C port. You know that little battery pack you bought to charge your iPhone or iPad in emergencies? Would you believe you can charge a MacBook with it? Turns out you've come to expect facts and data from me, so let me prove it to you. I have the RAV-Power 16,000 milliamp hour portable charger. It's running $30 on Amazon. By the way, if I mentioned my Amazon affiliate link, click the links in the show notes. Anyway, it's $30, 16,000 milliamp hours. And it has a regular 1 amp port, but it has a 2 amp port for charging a tablet. I thought I'd run an experiment to get some good data for you. I first ran the MacBook down to 3% battery at the end of the day, and in the morning I tried to start it up, but it was having nothing of that. It was really, really dead. I plugged in the RAV-Power, but after about 2 minutes, I was still getting the red battery symbol. If I had actually waited a while, I think it would have charged up enough to boot up, but I got bored waiting, so I gave it some juice from the wall. I got it up to 5%, and I actually ran it at 5% while I was playing with it for a little while, and the battery pack was able to keep it at 5%. It didn't discharge while I was plugged in. But again, I stopped at 5% and I unplugged it from the wall and put the portable charger back on. Throughout the day, I didn't use the MacBook. It was hard, but I didn't use the MacBook. But I opened the MacBook up to wake it and noted the time and percent of charge throughout the day. I took these data points from 7:40 in the morning until 2:10 in the afternoon. That time span will come in to be important. At 1:35, I went to check on the MacBook, but it didn't wake up. I thought that was kind of curious. So I hit the power button and it actually booted up. Kind of odd. But when I checked the charge, it said it was at 82%. I closed the lid again. At 2 p.m., 2:10 p.m., I woke it up, but it didn't wake up. At least this time, though, hitting the power button woke it up instead of having to boot it up. So remember, at 1:35, it said it was at 82%. Now at 2:10 p.m., when I checked it, it still said 82%. The needle hadn't moved. I think that sometime before 1:35 p.m. had fully depleted the battery pack when it... That sentence doesn't work. Miss anything important here? Uh-oh. Steve's tattling about something? When did it become hashtag? Save. That's good. Oh, tattling on Kim. Yeah, well, Steve definitely plays for the boys team. We can say that for sure. Let's see. Okay. I suspect that the MacBook at some time before 1:35 p.m. had actually fully depleted the battery pack when it hit 82%. And after that, the MacBook went into a deep sleep. I'm no electrical engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer, but it appears that the MacBook, when sensing a power source that's not supplying sufficient power, kind of went into a defensive mode. I plotted the data on a graph in Excel. I asked Excel to draw me a curve through the data points I had, testing out linear, then a few polynomials, but it was pretty obvious looking at that on the majority of the graph, it was a beautiful linear plot. Since I had 5 good data points to draw that straight line, and after that, it pretty much flatlined at 82%, I could extrapolate backwards with some quick ciphering where the Mac first hit 82% charged. Okay, some of you by this time have your eyes glazed over with so many numbers, but a lot of you guys are still with me because you're as nerdy as I am, but let me summarize. I determined that in 4.5 hours, I can add 77% battery charge to my MacBook from a $30 phone tablet charger. In this case, the 16,000 milliamp hour RAV power. If you didn't have 16,000 milliamp hours, you wouldn't get that much charge, or unless you had more, you'd probably get more. In addition, I can say that at least with this device, the charging is pretty darn linear. So you'd get half that charge in half that time. Now, this isn't a speedy way to charge, but it's great to know you can carry your charge along with you. So tell me, how do you feel about that single USB-C port now? Let's see. Does Textual let you change the font size? That's an interesting choice on the input field. Interface. User list colors, server list colors. Colors. Yeah, how about fonts? Don't they have font? Man, I don't see any font stuff. Where are you finding any fonts? I guess I should go back to the show while you guys work on that form. XChat Azure. Are you on? Look at my font setup. Oh, you know what, Byron? It's really hard for me to click links because I have a habit of doing that, and then what happens is it actually takes over the Google Chat window, or the the Hangout on Air window, and then the video disappears, and everybody gets really cranky, and the whole show stops. So it's tempting to hit it, but I've accidentally done that before, and it was a bad thing. All right, we have a dumb question. Scooby. Oh, it's not in there. I got to go back here to here. Dumb question. Oh, man. Steve lost his Wi-Fi again. What is going on with that? There was a big Wi-Fi problem for... okay, you're back in, though. Good. There was a big Wi-Fi problem for the iMacs, and it got better after iOS or OS 10.10 point something, and now it looks like it's a problem again. Let's see. Do I need a new iMac? Oh, don't say that. At least he said it quietly so that it looks like Kevin didn't hear that Steve needs a new iMac. You know, you can get a 5K iMac for $2,000. I'll get you the slow one. Okay. Here we go. So tell me, how do you feel? Don't do that. Wrong line. Okay. Feel about that single USB-C port now? Too quiet. About that single USB-C port now? Still too quiet. Why? All right. To fix this, I'm going to have to go back to the beginning, and I'm going to have to lay in the front music. Kevin, take your ears off. Yes, I think Linda is right. Mipples was taken off of the mantle, and so he's hacked. He obviously hacked Steve. I think you're right on target, Linda. Clearly, that's what happened. Let's see. See how this sounds. Podcast with an ever so slight. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's why that doesn't sound, it didn't look right. I was like, what the heck? Oh, shift. I'm trying to set the beginning because it's harder to do stuff here. Number 525. Or and this is show number 525. Well, we're going to start. Steve needs a new iMac. Oh, no. And it begins. Yeah, because it's been 15 minutes since Steve got a new computer. You can't get 2 new computers in 1 year. Aren't there rules about that? You shouldn't get 2 in the same year. Just one of the many services, fine services I offer. All right, joining some stuff together. All right, let's go down here. Okay, so now I can fix the audio here. That I don't quite understand what happens here, but we'll go ahead and pump that back up to 0 and bring it back down to, where is this? This is 14.5. Why is that at 14.5 down? Makes no sense to me. Who's in charge here? All right, here we go. A single USB-C port now.
Dumb.
It's a little loud. Now.
Dumb
Dumb
question.
question.
Let me bring that down a little bit loud. Just a smidgen down there. There we go. Okay. Hate it when I do that.
Time for Dumb Question Corner.
Well, this week we hear from Rick with our dumb question. He wrote, "Hi, Allison. I have a dumb question about Photos.app. I have all my photos in Photos." God, I love the way Apple does that. "And I use iCloud Photo Library. My iMac is set to store all the originals, and my MacBook Pro, iPad, and iPhone are all set to optimize storage. This is working well for me. Here's my question. When I view a photo on my iPad, for example, it immediately shows me a low-resolution thumbnail while it downloads the full-resolution file to my device. That's good so far. Let's say I view 24 raw images on my iPad or any of my other devices set to optimize storage, and Photos.app downloads the full-resolution copies for me. How long do these stay on my device? I really don't want them to stay on my device, hogging up space once I have viewed them. Will they revert to an optimized thumbnail version, or will they stay on my iPad, iPhone, or MacBook as full-resolution files? Is there a way to make sure they return to an optimized storage state?" Before I jump into the answer here, I do want to say one thing. He referred to raw images. The raw images never go to your iOS devices. I'm not sure why that always happens, but any of the devices that you can get, like the iFi cards that allow you to move photos from your camera over to your phone, those always only send JPEGs, and that's also true with the Photos app. So I just want to set aside, raw is never there, but they are high resolution. All right, the best place I go to find answers about the new Photos app is iMore at imore.com. They've really been doing an awesome job of explaining everything about photos and how to migrate and use the application. I thought I knew the answer, but I went over to iMore to double check myself. Rather than writing it in my own words, let me read a direct quote from iMore's article entitled iCloud Photo Library Explained by Renee Ritchie. And of course, I've linked to the full article in the show notes. Renee wrote, "It takes a look at how much space is left on your device and then begins to intelligently manage it for you. To save on storage, it caches a manageable portion of photos and videos on your device, your most recent, favorite, and frequently accessed, and keeps the rest, older and seldom accessed, up in the cloud. Moreover, for the photos that are cached locally, iCloud Photo Library optimizes them for the size of the display. If you're on an iPhone, you don't need the full-size RAW file, so you get the appropriately sized JPEG. For photos that are on the cloud, you'll get a thumbnail, but can tap them at any time to download them locally." Important takeaway here is that even when you do tap on a photo, it's not downloading the giant full-resolution file from the cloud. It's only sending you one appropriate for your device. On an iPhone 5, you're going to get a different size file than on an iPad with a Retina display. Another fun thing is that if you have some photos you always want available, you can simply favorite them in Photos and you won't have to request them. They will stay on your device. I thought some real-life metrics would be helpful here, and I'm really glad I did this because I found some interesting data points. I looked at 4 devices. My MacBook Pro that has my entire full-size photo library with all of its raw goodness, and I compared it to my iPhone 6, my iPad Air, and my 12-inch MacBook, all 3 of which are running with optimized images. Now, I put screenshots of the 4 devices in the show notes if you want to go look at the numbers. While my MacBook Pro has 370 gigabytes gobbled up by photos, the MacBook only has a paltry 162 gigabytes. Now, that might seem like a lot, but I have a 500 gigabyte disk in there with very little other data on it yet because it's so new. So that seems reasonable that it's sucking up a lot of space. Still, less than half of what I have on my MacBook Pro. Then things got interesting when I looked at my 2 iOS devices. The iPhone has 42 gigabytes of photos, but the iPad has 24 gigabytes of photos. Both devices have 64 gigabytes of storage, so why would they be different? My iPad has gobs of video, podcasts, and movies on it, so of course it has less space for photos. At first, I got really excited because they both had 14 gigabytes free, and I thought, oh, it's a magic number, and that every iOS device would be kept to 14 gigabytes free. Well, Steve encouraged me to check his iPhone too in order to be sure this wasn't just a coincidence. He has a 32 gigabyte iPhone, but only 2.6 gigabytes available. So his onboard photos library is taking up a mere 3.4 gigabytes. To check a little deeper, I asked Rick himself to help with the data gathering. Remember Rick? He was the one who asked the dumb question. His 64 gigabyte iPhone has 24 gigabytes free with a 3.9 gigabyte iPhoto library. So I haven't quantified how Apple determines how much space it's going to take up on your device, but we do know that it doesn't chew up all your free space if you have a lot of space or just a little bit. The final takeaway is that you don't have to worry your pretty little head about any of this, Rick. It's all going on magically in the background for you. If you're intrigued by GoPros or even have one of your own, I think you're going to find this next interview from NAB pretty darn cool and definitely innovative. Yes, there's a NosillaCast app, Byron, but do not buy it right now because any minute now there's a brand new version coming out. It's coming out. Well, it was sent up like a week and a half ago, so we're waiting on pins and needles for that thing to come out. So don't buy it right now. But in fact, I'm going to talk about it in the show. But any second now there'll be a new version, and I'll be tweeting and everything about it. All right, it is time for Poe Productions. Come here. This is pretty cool. This is a, why aren't you letting me? There we go. It's not letting me change the name. I really like this guy because he really likes Ballast Point beer, and that's where my son-in-law is the director of operations. So that's why I liked him so much. Oh, there's Donald Burr. Byron, meet Donald. Donald, meet Byron. Donald is the creator of the NosillaCast app. So you can ask him any questions you want. And it is absolutely positively accessible because Donald wouldn't do anything less. Let's see. New York. Linda says, boy, you're right in the right place with Podfeet. Alan and Steve are such huge proponents of adaptive tech. Yeah. Oh, he can buy it now. He gets free upgrade when it comes out. How do you do that, Donald? I thought you can't do free upgrades. Alistair's here from New Zealand. We got 2 of our Kiwis here. Man, the chat room is hopping tonight. What's going on? This is fun. The biggest crowd we've had in a long time. Pretty darn cool and definitely innovative. I'm with Nolan Ramsier from Poe Productions, and you guys have some... Okay, we have too much going on, so we are not going to get to hear that. Ooh, that's a long one. How long is that audio, Steve? Poe Productions. That's a long one. 9 minutes. Oh, I didn't know it was that long. Yeah, it's gonna be a long show. Oh, well, no, we did go long. That's okay. Nobody ever complains about the show being too long. Wow, but I think I have 2 more articles. No, I just have 1 more article. Okay, good. Good. Okay, here we go. Zed. Pulling my muscle. Oh, Alistair, I hate that. I remember the first time that happened to me when I started to get old. I was like shaving my legs and I put my back out. It's like, oh man. Now, the good news is my father-in-law says that once that happens, pretty much every injury is additive for the rest of your life and you just feel worse and worse. He's a real inspiration. All right. Ooh, too much twisting. Oh, poor thing. I feel for you. All right, here we go. Let's see. Ellen, thank you very much and good luck to you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, we really love talking to that guy Nolan from Poe Productions. After we got done talking about the GoPro and everything, we found out that he lives pretty close to where our daughter and son-in-law lives, and it turns out he really likes Ballast Point Brewery, which is where our son-in-law is the head of product operations. So we're going to definitely go on a tour of his facility, maybe meet him up at Ballast Point. He was really, really fun. Oh, Steve says I should show you this. Ballast Point. Actually, Nolan wouldn't like this. This is one of the ones where the detergent took there used to be a fish on there. But anyway, there's my Ballast Point glass. All right. All right. Oh, you scanning your dad's old negatives? Oh, cool. Well, move the scanner. Here we go. Whether you have a diminutive Ultrabook like a MacBook Air with a tiny SSD or a big beefy desktop with a giant drive on it, you still want more storage. You know how it is, the more space you have, the more you need, right? I think it's like with houses. If you had a 4-bedroom house with only 2 people, you'd manage to fill up every room in the house. I think it stems back to our inherent laziness that it's harder to keep things tidy than it is to be sloppy, so we revert back to our slovenly instincts if we can. Okay, 2 of you out there going, not me, I'm totally neat and I keep my hard drive really clean. But I'm betting I speak to the rest of you, right? Personally, I bought a 1 terabyte SSD in my recent MacBook Pro, but somehow I only have 140 gigabytes free on it. And I keep on it all the time trying to find free space. Well, in the old days, which were about 15 minutes ago by my watch, we used external USB drives mostly for backup because it just wasn't fast enough to keep our data live externally. USB 1 transferred data at 12 megabits per second. USB 2 brought us a 40x speed increase up to 480 megabits a second, but that still wasn't fast enough. The speed problems were exacerbated by the use of spinning drives because SSDs were still so expensive. Well, today's computers now sport the shiny new USB 3 ports at 5 gigabits per second, and SSDs have plummeted in price, so it might just be worthwhile to use external storage for real-time use. Now, I know I mentioned this in our Google Plus community back in March, but I'm not sure I told you about it on the podcast. I bought a 1 terabyte SSD from OWC, and I put it in a USB 3 enclosure. I didn't have an immediate need for it, but the price was too good to pass up. The model I bought was a crucial 6 gigabit per second SSD for $349, plus a USB 3 enclosure made by OWC themselves for the other $22. Unfortunately, they don't seem to be selling this exact model anymore, but they do have the Mercury Electra, but right now it's running for $458. So, that's still an amazing price for a terabyte SSD. Well, that drive that I bought is awesome and fast, but that's not exactly what I wanted to tell you about today. The fine folks over at OWC, also known as MacSales at macsales.com, gave me their new Envoy Pro Mini SSD to test. This stands out as a whole different beast because it's in the form factor of a thumb drive. Maybe a big thumb drive, but still very, very small. So instead of a big 2.5-inch drive, it's like the size of a thumb drive. The Envoy Pro Mini comes either in 120 gigabytes or 240 gigabytes for $119 or $200 respectively. The specs they provide on their website say that the Envoy Pro Mini, it's hard to say, Envoy Pro Mini, will provide 433 megabytes per second sustained speeds. I thought it'd be fun to take the Envoy Pro Mini out and the crucial full-sized SSD out for a speed test and see how they performed compared to each other. I bought them both from OWC, so I thought that'd be an interesting comparison. Let's see, it is megabytes, right? I want to make sure I'm saying that back. Alistair, you're listening, right? It is megabytes, right now, isn't it? Tag me in the chat if I didn't save. Okay. There's a great free application in the Mac App Store called Blackmagic Speed Test from Blackmagic Design that I decided to use for my tests. To refresh your memory, the Envoy Pro Mini is advertised at 403 megabytes. I'm going to say it right yet. 433 megabytes per second. You know what? I'm going to redo that. I just said 433. Why did I put it in the show notes twice? Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, but Alistair, you bought the same drive as me, right? That Crucial, and that's what you put internally. So using the Apple 120 gig SSD as an external drive. Cool. There's a free application that's really good in the Mac App Store called Blackmagic Speed Test. It's from Blackmagic Design, and I decided to use this for my tests. Okay, to refresh your memory, the Envoy Pro Mini is advertised at 433 megabytes per second sustained transfer speeds. But when I ran the Blackmagic speed test on the drive, I only got about 155 megabytes per second and 210. That was right. Why am I stumbling so much? Try it again. Some days. All right, one more time. All right. One more time. There's a great free application in the Mac App Store called Blackmagic Speed Test. It's from Blackmagic Design. I decided to use this for my speed tests. To refresh your memory, the Envoy Pro Mini is advertised at 433 megabytes per second sustained transfer speeds. But when I ran Blackmagic on the drive, I only got about 155 megabytes per second write and 210 read. In contrast, the external SSD that also came from OWC ran at 375 megabytes per second, both read and write, so more than double the speed. Both devices were tested using the standard 5 gigabyte file stress test that Blackmagic recommends to get the most technically accurate results. I thought maybe I should double check the results from the Blackmagic by watching the disk's transfer speeds using iStat menus. I dragged a 4.7 gigabyte movie file over to the Envoy Pro Mini, and I was able to replicate the results of Blackmagic, seeing 155 megabytes per second write speed. This got me curious. OWC is a great company with a great reputation. I have personally depended on them over the years, so why would my test results be so very different from what they promised? Turns out to be very much in the eye of the beholder and what is considered normal usage. When they told me that normal usage was 433 megabytes per second, I interpreted it differently. When I wrote to OWC asking about the vast differences in speed between the SSD in the external enclosure that I bought from them versus the Envoy Pro Mini, they explained. The type of files you are using will result in different levels of performance. Unless a drive is being specifically used for video editing, a more true to real life test would be something like QuickBench that uses compressible data. We use that test bench for the benchmarking listed on the product pages, as the vast majority of end users and customers likely to purchase an Envoy Pro Mini will be working with compressible data files, and test benches like QuickBench paint a more realistic picture of the performance they are likely to see. Now, my first inclination was to think this was a bit of a dodge and weave, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Blackmagic Speed Test is written by a company who sells video gear and whose customers are primarily interested in testing drives to see if they can read and write video as it's captured and edited. In fact, if you look at the speed test screenshots I put in the show notes, you'll see that the Blackmagic Speed Test shows you little green check marks indicating what type of video you could read and write to disks real time using that drive, like 1080p, whatever, 4K. You got little check marks to tell you what you can do. So it's very specifically about video. Blackmagic's own documentation backs up what OWC said, with perhaps a little down-the-nose view at those of us who don't write video real time. They said, some models of SSD cannot save video data at the speed indicated by the manufacturer because the disk uses hidden data compression to reach these higher write speeds. This data compression technique can only save data at the manufacturer's claimed speed when storing simple files or simple data, such as blank data. Video data includes video noise and more random pixel data, which does not compress much, so the true speed of the disk is seen. All right, you guys have applauded my efforts in the past, and I've mentioned it here earlier twice to find the real data for myself, so I decided to prove their points. I took a look at the QuickBench software that OWC recommends and uses for their speed tests, but it hasn't been updated in years, and in fact, it shows compatibility only through Mavericks. And it was $15. So I decided not to shell out my own hard-earned cash on an apparently abandoned piece of software. If it were up to date, I would have definitely shelled out the $15. Instead, I made my own test files to do the transfer. Here's the problem, though. The speeds we're talking about here are so wicked fast that it's really hard to measure them. At first, I dragged over a folder of just text files because I figured, okay, those are going to be highly compressible. I dragged them over to the Envoy Pro Mini, and I was not able to bring up iStat menu before the transfer was done. All right, well, I got to step up my game a little bit. So I took a folder with an assortment of files from small text files to screenshots to audio files. The whole thing was 73 gigabytes total. About 21 gigabyte of that, so about a third, was audio files measuring around 500 megabytes each. So 73 gigabytes with 21 gigabytes of audio. The test achieved a peak of 336 megabytes per second. So that's more than double what I got with those incompressible video files looking at iStat menu before or with Blackmagic. Now, that's still not up to the 433 megabytes per second OWC claimed, and it definitely was not a sustained transfer speed. In fact, most of the time, as you can see in the iStat menu graph in the show notes, the data was transferring more around 150 and 200 megabytes per second again. It's possible that the peak was when all the compressible non-audio files just whooshed over the Envoy Pro Mini, and that the audio files were as incompressible as the video files in the other test. I actually don't know whether that was the cause, but that might make sense. The bottom line here is that SSDs are getting really inexpensive and very fast, and that if you want a super, super portable way to increase your storage, the Envoy Pro Mini from OWC is a fantastic solution. When I say portable, I have to admit that I couldn't find the Envoy Pro Mini for a couple of hours because I had accidentally left it in my purse and I never even noticed it was there. It was there for over a week and I didn't even notice it because it's so small. Now, $200 for 240 gigabytes of extra high-speed storage, even if it is only 200 megabytes per second, is a great deal. If you're looking to record video live to an external device, though, you'd be better off buying one of their external SSDs to get even faster data transfer speeds. What have I missed? Wow. Has that gone a long time? Hey, I'm here. We got a lot of people on Alpha Geek Radio. Glad to have you guys here. This is fun. By the way, did you guys know, and I don't know how to tell you how to do it, but evidently you can watch this show live on Roku if you want. I don't know how to do it. We actually did it when at one point, and I don't remember how we did it, so I can't tell you how to do it. Okay. Oh, Alistair tested the Crucial 960 internal 410 write, 480 read. Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, Alistair, can you find me? I'm looking for a source to explain how an SSD and flash memory, like on a USB drive, are two different things, why they're not the same speed. And I'm having trouble with that. Oh, New York Linda's trying to get me drunk with the Tanqueray and tonic. I'm not allowed to have Tanqueray during the show anymore. There you go. Rose is talking about the infamous martini show. Yeah, drooling was involved. And I forgot the name of my daughter at one point. I have the hiccups. That's not good. Oh, Rose even brought that up. Gotta hold my breath for a second. Sorry. Archivist. I don't know if those were archived. Those probably aren't around anymore. I don't think we have that. The P in research is silent. Nice. Sorry for the audio stopping here. Oh man, I have the hiccups. This isn't good. Okay. Oh, it stopped. Usually holding my breath helps. Okay, here we go. No hiccups. Okay, calm the diaphragm. Take a drink every time she hiccups. This is not good. Oh, Byron, yeah. Check, see if you can figure out how to subscribe on Roku. Like I said, it's through Alpha Geek Media is what you're looking for, that you can actually watch the live show. And they play reruns too, so that's kind of fun. Spoonful of sugar. I actually have found, yeah, you could try and scare me. That would be great. Okay, Byron's off to check and see if he can figure out how to add Alpha Geek Radio, Alpha Geek Media. All right, here we go. I'm not sure most of you know this, but Donald Burr has been slaving away in the background rewriting the NosillaCast app for iOS. He wrote our original app, and now he's written an all-new spanking version of for iOS 8. It's really slick. It gives you a way to listen to the live show and play in the live chat room while you listen. There's even alerts for when the live show is coming up that are now tied to our Google Calendar, so if I move the live show, you're not going to miss it. Maybe you can't stay up that late in your time zone to listen live, but there's fun for you too. With the app, you can listen to the recorded shows and read along in the show notes, all in a shiny new interface. The only bad news is that I'm telling you all of this is a big old tease. He has submitted the new version to the App Store, but after a week and a half, we're still waiting for Apple's approval. It has to be any day now, though, so stay tuned. I'm sure it's going to be up by next week, maybe by the time you're listening to this. Donald is not letting any grass grow under his feet, though. He's already started working on enhancements to the app, and for whatever he's cooking up next, he asked me if I could describe to him exactly how I create my feed for the NosillaCast. The feed is a text file, also known as an XML file, that magically delivers the podcast to your podcatcher of choice. You know, iTunes, Downcast, Podcaster, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, whatever you're using. Now, I thought for a minute how to describe how I do it. No, it's not the right accent on the wrong syllable. All right, those hiccups are gone. Thank you. 20-second lag. Yeah, isn't there that long, Kim? There's that long of a lag on the that's mostly induced by the Google Hangout NAR has at least a 20-second lag. When we measured it once, it was 42. We thought that was cool. Right. I thought for a minute, how do I describe exactly how I do it? And then, of course, I remembered I probably documented the whole thing in a tutorial over on podfeet.com using a tool you might have heard me mention before called Clarify from clarify-it.com. Ages ago, I opened up Feeder, the tool that creates my feed, and I just screenshotted every single setting I could find in there, and I wrote little explanations of why I chose each setting. I really did it for myself in case I had to rebuild it from scratch, but I posted it on the blog so that if anyone else wanted to know how to do it, theirs could be modeled right after mine. It's actually, there's a link in the show notes to that tutorial if you care about setting up feed files, and you can also find it, I think, under Mac tutorials. Clarify is the easiest way to document things on the computer of any tool out there, bar none. Give their free trial a spin for Mac and or Windows over at clarify-it.com. Whew. Long show. Time to stand? Oh, it is 5:50. I wonder if it's because I'm on Do Not Disturb. Sandy, you need to take a picture of your watch and drink. Oh, okay. Well, Kim said to have a drink, so who am I to argue? Got a buzz? Wait, Steve's needs a new Mac is leaving. I got buzz. See you next week. Why is Steve leaving? Oh, Steve needs a new Mac is Kevin. Jeez. Bye, Kevin. I thought that was Steve all this time. Oh, okay. Bye, Kevin. Love to the family. Bye-bye. It's time for chit chat music. And we'll start that about there. And then we'll come over here and we will find the NosillaCast audio. Chit chat across the pond. Rob Dunwood. I'm going to give you guys the beginning of this. Rob Dunwood is here from the SMR podcast. We had so much fun. Rob is hilarious. I'll give you a little bit of it. Yeah, Rob is a great guy. Let's see. Check the sound here. Cymbals check, Steve. You ready? Check, check, check. Cymbals. Move that. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Okay, good. It's just my cursor. Come on. I think I'm losing battery on that. I need to recharge my batteries in my what is it called? It is called a trackpad. Okay, here we go. Cymbals check. Ready? Ready? Check, check. It.com. I heard a little at the end of that. I want to clip. Do you hear it? God, I've got a good ear. And I'm vain too. Okay, delete that. Bring this in just a smidge. Okay, here we go. Whoop, that means I change this end. I like that about there. Okay, here we go. -it.com. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Chit Chat Across the Pond. And we have Rob Dunwood from the SMR podcast back to entertain us. How you doing today, big guy?
Not too bad. How you doing, Allison?
I'm doing great. I am so excited. I don't know why it's been so long since we've gotten together on my show.
Now, being a regular on my show, if you were on the show, I would have to roast you right now for flubbing the intro. You would have got it right.
Nobody would have known.
Nobody would have known, but you would have got it. You cannot come onto the SMR podcast. It doesn't matter who you are, you, Terrence, Blackberry Hank, whoever comes onto the show. If you slip up in the intro, you get it.
All right. So this is the same thing. Well, I'm well known for how I'm incredibly prepared. I always have show notes. I've got an agenda, but we're actually going to kick this a little bit chicken wings and beer style, which is when Rob and Chris just get on without any adult supervision on the SMR podcast.
Kick all that professionalism out the window.
Yeah, well, I think it'll be fun whenever you and I get together. We seem to have no dearth of conversation. That's for sure.
Right.
Well, I wanted to get you on because you've ended up in an interesting tech space. You were originally the BlackBerry guy, right?
I was diehard BlackBerry. If BlackBerry blue was a color, I probably would have bled it at one point. So yeah, I used to run a fairly large BlackBerry enthusiast site, and I did that for close to a decade.
Oh, wow.
And BlackBerry just wasn't doing it.
All right. I hate to do this, but I'm going to have to cut that off because this is running long. Hour and 49 minute show. Holy cow. What happened? All right. So let's see. I don't know if it's a record or not. Hang on. I need to write something down here real quick. Let's see. Hang on one second. Okay, they're not still there. Steve. Hang on a second. I'm asking Steve something. I'm just about set. Every new record broken is pressure of a guest host. I don't know. All right. Okay, here we go. Thank you, dear.
Appreciate you having me on.
Well, that was such a blast. I don't know why it's been so long since I had him on. I love talking to Rob. I love talking to any of the SMR podcast guys. They are all totally awesome. If you're not listening to the SMR podcast, you should just, stop listening to my show, start listening to them. Well, no, don't do that. But anyway, you should definitely subscribe to the SMR podcast over at smrpodcast.com. All right. In this week's episode, wait, it is smrpodcast.com, right? It's not simplemobilereview.com. Steve, double check me. Make sure it's smrpodcast.com. All right. Here we go. All right. Here we go. But that's going to wind us up for this week. Many thanks to our sponsor for helping to pay the bills, the makers of Clarify over at clarify-it.com. Why have you not bought this software yet? Have I not mentioned it enough? Anyway, don't forget to send in your dumb questions like Rick did this week. I love the dumb questions, comments, and suggestions. All you have to do, email me at allison@podfeet.com. If you want to talk to me on Twitter, you can follow me on Twitter at Podfeet. Check out the NosillaCast Google Plus community. I've been asking a lot of questions over there, getting a lot of great help. The conversations are just going crazy over there. We're well past 500 people. And again, it's not too chatty. It's just chatty enough. It's perfect. I love it over there. So we've been comparing a lot of notes and getting a lot of great ideas for people. So if you need any help with tech stuff, man, I always send people over there first. I said, don't ask me unless it's a dumb question. Ask the Google Plus community. If you want to join in the fun of the live show, like Byron did for the first time, he's been listening for over a year. First time live chat. It was a great time. We had a really lively chat room this week. Anyway, if you'd like to join in the fun of the live show, head over to podfeet.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic NosillaCastaways. Oh, and don't forget, we're going to be in that same chat room on June 8th at 10 a.m. Pacific time for WWDC. Thanks for listening. And stay subscribed. I think that rant really helped me. I feel great now. I was in a bad mood before we started, and I'm just like, woohoo! Yay! Byron's first introduction. It's all downhill after that. A rant today. Yeah, watch out, though. You're the only one in the house, so it would probably be a rant about you after a while, so subscribe. Okay, I think we're going to be pretty close to done because, I need to join those things together. Byron hasn't heard this before. Most of you have, but for some reason, if I don't glue things together after I chop them up, like if I make a flub and I cut a piece off, if I don't do a join in GarageBand, I get this weird ghosting effect. So that's what I'm doing right now. I select a region and glue them back together. I get like a ghosting of the piece I cut out, which is very strange. I don't use the new GarageBand because it doesn't work real well for podcasting. It doesn't do auto decking and stuff. But yeah, Linda, it was a great day to join. Man, it was chat room's on fire. This is the most fun we've had in a while. I've noticed things are seasonal. Around August, everybody disappears and then people start coming back, I guess, when it's cold out. Oh, use Adobe Audition. Cool. All right, cool. Hey, what's your Twitter handle, Byron? Do you tweet much? All right, I think I'm ready to share export song to disk. I have 1 minute left before Alpha Geek Radio is going to kick me off. That's not true. They don't kick me off, but I always feel guilty if I go long. Byron 27. All right, I'm going to write that down. Everybody follow Byron 27 on Twitter. You're fun. All right, everybody, that is it for the live show. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for having a lively chat room, and we will see you next Sunday and then the following Monday on to listen to the WWDC, and hopefully they will have HomeKit for Steve on the Apple TV, on a new Apple TV. That's all he wants. I want Apple to do that. All right, guys, I'm going to cut off the live video first. So goodbye, live video audience.